Good evening and welcome to another episode of Sistah Girls Night In. Today we have Elle Kayson joining us. How you doing, Elle?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, finally, we've had to reschedule a couple of times,
I
right?
know, I know. It's been crazy.
So, would you like to tell us about yourself?
So, as you just said, my name is Elle Kayson. That's my, I guess, pseudonym, not alias. That wouldn't be the correct word. Can't think of the word I want to use. And I am from Louisiana, proudly, but lived a lot of my adult life in Texas. So that's why you'll see some of my stories set in Texas. Um, I'm a mother of one. Um, Grandmother of two, although one of my babies has passed on. Um, and I'm retired. I had a unexpected disability that had me retire from being an associate professor in African American history and recent U.S. history. So now I'm figuring out how to spend my days doing more reading than writing, but trying to get back on track and spending time with my grandbaby.
Hmm. Okay, I'm sorry about your loss. But also, you spoke about, associate professor in African American studies. I know I heard you say something about you want to write historical fiction of some kind.
Hmm.
Have you started that?
Haven't written any historical fiction, and I should correct myself and say African American history instead of studies, because there is a difference. I had to learn that. I have not started that. I feel like it would be good for me, especially like the post Civil War period. I'm really interested in that, but I'm also interested in like African Americans in the civil rights era and stuff. So if I could bring like my academic interests to my fiction interests, I think it would be good. But I haven't started anything historical. I'm still like in the writing everything in the present day.
You know what?
Mm.
It's crazy because I pitched the story one time, and I wanted an author to write a book on the side of being horror about the January 6th resurrection. So
Mm.
I wanted those who were there to rally, uh them to go back and be like their ancestors, and those slaves or all the free black men and women that they tortured, they come back for them after the I hope somebody could do something like that. I think I should.
Right?
That would be
That
so
that
dope.
that sort of revenge thing. We can't.
Yes,
That's yes.
that'd
I'm
be
here
so
for it.
dope. Like they woke the spirits when they did that, when they
Mm-hmm.
raided the Capitol. Oh my God, that'd be
Yes.
boom.
Yes. I agree.
So with the historical fiction you wanted to get into, would that be like towards the romance, towards what would it be? Informative?
Yeah, towards romance. Sometimes I think about doing nonfiction historical writing because there's lots of things I'm interested in, like especially like stories of black women, like
Yes.
especially on like local levels who like made a difference or like state levels. Like for example, I won't go all too deep in this, but there's this politician from my area who unfortunately passed away in a traffic accident some years ago. Her name was Pinky Wilkerson. And she did a lot of interesting things, and I was like, she has a story to be told, and like her home is sort of like become like a place to start for research and gambling and stuff like that. So it's like I'd be interested to tell her story, and there is a historian in Arkansas named Sharice Jones Bryan who writes a lot about local black women and like black women who worked through agricultural extension agencies and things like that. Just like rural
Mm.
southern black women and like how these everyday women made a difference. So I'm still interested in doing short pieces like that. I do not want to write another academic book. That is over. But so I don't want to do that. But I have that nonfiction interest, but the fiction interest would definitely be romance. Definitely romance.
I love historical fiction and
Hmm.
nonfiction. actually. It's something I started reading probably like in the past 2 years, especially with the history of the debutante, and how that became about. So it's a lot behind it.
Mm.
But I, as an author, I know that sometimes you can be challenged. Like I know from previous conversations, it took you a couple of years to write Demon's Dream.
Mm-hmm.
You said you started it, you stopped, you picked it up again.
Mm-hmm.
How was that your most challenging book to write?
It was. I guess I would have to say yes. It was challenging in the. Okay. Let me let's put it in perspective. It was challenging in the sense that I got sick in the middle of it, and it was challenging in the sense I got the physical ailment in the middle of it. But
Mm-hmm.
I had been like, which I think is reflected in the book. I had been sort of in a dark place for a minute, struggling with anxiety and depression. And I think, the darkness of that book reflects it. So it's difficult in that sense. And it was difficult in um, the actual, getting it written portion of it after, my hands were affected. I had that little partial paralysis for a
Oh,
minute.
wow.
So that part was difficult. And finishing the story, like I kept, if I was like, okay, at some point I've been writing on it so long, I should make it a series, like I need to put something out. It's been a while because I'm telling you, I was like in a space where I hadn't published anything. So Demon's Dream came out in 2022. Hadn't
Mm-hmm.
published anything solo since 2019. And I was like, I was pushing myself. I was like, you should at least, drop it as a series so you can get something out. And it was difficult because even though I was starting to like the story, because I thought, the beginning was slow. I was like, oh my gosh, nobody's going to read this. I was starting to like the story, but I couldn't find a place to stop it to make a series, So, right,
What do you
finishing it.
mean it's boring?
Oh my goodness.
I,
I asked Tiana Costin can tell you. I was like, friend, I don't even know if I let her read it. I was just complaining about it. I was like, oh my God. I guess it's what we call a slow burn, I guess, in the beginning to me. But I was like, oh my God. This story is so slow. And it's, I keep adding stuff to it. And I would tell my sister too. I was like, I can't stop talking, or typing. But it's slow to me. And who's going to read it, and uh so I mean, really, when it came out, it was a matter of my sister saying, just put the book out and see what it's going to do because I'm sick of you,
Thank
so
you,
we just
sister.
I had to put it out there because I really was like, I didn't know what people would think of it, honestly. And people have asked me, what were you expecting the reception? And I will honestly say on everything, I was not expecting the reception it got because I did not know how people would feel about it. Honestly, I just didn't, because I was crossing genres and I
Mm-hmm.
had a certain audience, and I was like, okay, this is a little bit different. And honestly, I did this thing Misha Mish fussed at me about. I go back in sometimes, and it's because not to discount my urban romance audience. That's like, my largest audience, people who've supported me or whatever. But I'll go back and I read it and I realize that I'm getting to talking like unlike other books I've read. And so I'll go back and I'm like, okay, let's change the language in this section and put, change the language into this and, make it have more of this feel or whatever. And so sometimes, it can feel like not authentic to who I am or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that I struggle with.
That you brought that up.
So I did that some in that book. And now I go back and read it. I'm like, oh, you didn't have to say this like this, but it is what it is. So.
So I'm glad you brought up that with it not being authentic, because when you read a Demon's Dream, I like you expect this young writer, and then when we meet you, you like this soft spoken, and it's like you said, I'm a grandmother, from the country, from the rural areas, and it's like
Hmm.
we get this book, and it's like totally opposite of your
Yeah.
personality. Are people shocked when they See?
Yeah, a couple people, people don't really like say it to you, but yeah, a couple people have told me that they were, and I think there's nothing wrong with, like, stepping out and writing different things, but I
Mhm.
will say it's something that I want, at least the I think with this book, I'm hope I'm starting to move away from, like, it's a lot of work, is I guess what I'm getting at. It's like, really, I tell people, like, I'm constantly asking my son and my nephews about language, about music, even though I've learned some things about, like, not dating your work by mentioning, like, certain things. I do put some current references in there or whatever, but and it just, it feels it's difficult. Like I told them, like, I'm a sort of at the end of my career, I was, a middle class teacher, professor. Like, I want to write something else, and I felt tied to that,
Mhm.
especially having built the audience that I built, But I want to do other things. I do. I want to just, like, okay, write in a language that's not full of jargon, but that's comfortable to me,
Yes.
like, just get out there and put it out, and don't worry about, did you say it in the way, this age group or this particular person, the way you've constructed them may have said it or whatever. So I am at least moving my characters to rural North Louisiana. I'm going to write like a sort of a small town story, um, and and not being so concerned. I'm like letting go of, like, worrying about, does every line have the most recent vernacular English.
Yes. I wanted to ask. So, Demon's Dream is about 7,500 reviews right now,
Hmm.
and I know when we were just at Indie Love this past weekend, and it's sold out. And
Yeah,
like you said, it released in 2020, what, two?
2. Hmm.
And people are still reading it, and the word of mouth is still traveling.
Yes.
I I mean, I honestly think that's like the most reviews I ever saw for one single book. For a series added together, I saw that, but 7,500 for one single book. Does that surprise you? Like,
It does. I don't see it a lot, or in the genre I write in. I've seen, books with more than that, and in other things that I've read and stuff. Then,
mm,
I'm always shifting the goalposts. So I'm like, okay, I want to aim for something else. But yeah, that surprised me, because I remember, okay, before, I was writing before they just had the reviews and ratings combined, right? So
yeah,
all we would see was the reviews. So if you got like 300 or 400 reviews, you were doing good. That wasn't with the ratings included. And then they started including the ratings. And so, you'd want over like 1,000 or whatever, because they had just the ratings or whatever.
mhm,
So when looking at this book, I'm just like, wow. Like,
yes.
I've been amazed by it.
And then you go in like different, and I know, one time I had to delete my comment, where, they thought Demon's Dream was a fantasy or something.
Paranormal or something.
Ooh.
The
I mean,
title.
like, and I know me and you, we talked in the inbox about it, but how do you feel when someone is upset they read it, but they love, like, literally said, "Oh, I love this book," but if it was urban, I wouldn't have read it. But I love the book.
Mm-hmm.
The stamina or the stigma, or should I say the stigma behind the word urban
Yes.
is like, how do
That makes me mad. It Oh god. It makes me so mad, because I don't want to feed into the game that, it's like you said, I stop myself a lot. Um I don't want to feed into the game that they're playing, where
Mhm.
I just say, because I don't want to dismiss a lot of people who are writing, where, and it's, I have said before, you'd be surprised by who is writing these books and who's reading these books, and in saying that, referencing the fact, for example, that I have a PhD, or that there's lots of people with college degrees or whatever that are reading and writing these books or whatever. But then that's kind of like I feel like I'm playing the bougie game that they're playing. Like, that's the only thing that makes it worth taking a second look or whatever. No, there are all kinds of people telling amazing stories, and talking about a part of life, or a life for some people that might not make you comfortable, but that doesn't mean you just get to dismiss it or whatever. And what really makes me mad is because I'm somebody, as you can tell by Dina's Dream, who likes mafia romance, right? So don't come to me talking about you don't want to read about well, you can, I mean, that's your choice, but you don't want to read about violence, or criminal activity or whatever, and then those books are super popular, and it's okay because of the a veneer of who's writing it or whatever. So it really makes me mad. It really makes me mad because I think it's rooted, given who's reading and writing most of it. I definitely think a lot of it's rooted in sort of an anti-blackness
Yes,
and a dismissal of black authors, black readers, our interests in that area. Yeah, I think it's.
I totally agree.
Hmm.
Because
I have
some of the
accused.
most successful movies I know, growing up, we watched Scarface, we watched
Right,
Goodfellas. You know, it's just Harlem Nights was a play on, you know, mafia and gambling back in the day, and
right.
also I can't think of the one with Lawrence Fishburne in it. It was an oldie but goodie. But mafia movies have been very, very popular for ages. It's like some of the most successful movies write about that, that underworld, with the
Hmm.
number running the numbers and
Right.
gambling and bodies turning up missing and it's crazy. But I totally agree with what you said. It seems like an anti-blackness, like you want to
Hmm.
prove that you're smarter than everyone else. But
Right.
like
Right.
you said, a lot of these readers and authors hold degrees. They're very successful in life. It's just an outlet, something they want to showcase,
Exactly.
in their art. So I totally agree with that. My thing with you know your books is like you get some of everything, because the women have degrees. The guys may be in the streets, but you have a balance. It's like they're educated. They don't always go towards or believe in a life of crime. It was basically how they were raised, so it's
Hmm.
hard to escape it. Especially with Dream, like she had a degree, Ivy League degree,
Hmm.
and but her father and her family, they were in the underworld. They were, and she was the cleanup person. She
Exactly.
fixed everything. Um, with that, and it's like that particular book there, I think I laughed. Not only did I smiled a lot, but I laughed because it's like his way of thinking. It was just so nonchalant. It was like anybody who disrespects her or him, they gotta go.
Hmm.
And she was like, "No, you can't." You
Right.
can't.
Right. Like, even though she does know this world, she's still shocked, I think, by the intensity of the
Mhm.
level of him. Hmm.
Then when she first met him, he was covered in blood. I think that was, to me, that scene right there had me rolling. When it's like he covered in blood,
Hmm.
and here you telling me I have to date this guy or be with him for 30 days, and he comes in here covered with blood, looking like he just slaughtered somebody.
Right.
And
Right.
he walked in so nonchalant, like like basically like he was in there scrambling eggs or something.
Right.
That was hilarious. Now, with Demon's Dream, we hear the gift and the curse. So you
Mhm.
know how people will read the book and love it so much, and then everything you come out afterwards, they're comparing it
Yes.
to that book. Have you been able to escape that?
No, you know what? My honestly, at first it did not bother me because my first book after that was supposed to be just like a little novella, part of a
Hmm.
series, sort of interconnected series with my friends. I don't know if that's the right word, but we were all writing,
Yeah.
on this like this mixtape thing. And I thought, it's going to be clear that I'm not trying to follow Demon's Dream. I need something lighter and easier than that. So I'm not worried about that. And then of course, as time passed and the book kept, doing well or whatever, and so many people were asking me about it and would there be a part two? And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to say enough. That first of all, and then the book that I was writing was getting longer and longer and longer past
Yes.
the date. I was like, no matter how much I say it or where I say it, I'm not going to be able to get across to everyone that this is nothing like Demon's Dream. Don't be expecting that. I want to
Hmm.
broadcast that, But it does. I will not lie. It has excuse me, caught a cold. It has affected my mindset now. So I won't. Yeah, I am nervous to drop again. I am. Now I don't expect the next book. That doesn't. I mean, I love it, but I don't expect it to do what Demon's Dream did. That. I'm not. I don't. I hope that's not a once in a lifetime thing. But I'm like, this book might not do that. It might be somewhere in my future I have that same kind of success, whatever. And I don't want to. I know me, and I don't want to feel bad because this book does well, but not those extreme numbers. And I don't want to be judged because this book does like people like this book. Oh, but they don't like it the way people like Demon's Dream. So
Yeah.
yeah, it does. It does affect me.
Have you? I mean, with your audience that you attain for Demon's Dream, do they pressure you to get the books out? Because in this day and age, they expect a book a month.
Yeah.
Waiting 6 months for the next book. They're after 30 days, they like, okay, we waited enough. How long does it take you to write a book? And then you're a full time author right now. Is that added pressure?
Yeah, I think in the sense that it's funny to me that people who have been with me like since the beginning or pretty early on, they don't say anything. They already know me. Like, it might be just because I always had, to me, the professor thing was job. I always called it job number one and job number two.
Hmm.
And job number two was more of a hobby. I was blessed to do pretty well at it, but it still, until I had to retire, was it the primary focus. Job number one was the focus, and, this was, something I was doing on the side. And so the readers who've been with me for a long time know that even when I was writing series, it wasn't every month, And
Yeah.
if I will say like that first year, I did some like 3 month turnarounds, but that was under a lot of pressure. But like newer people, I get a lot of when just drop something when it's something coming out. What are you doing?
So I know you've been hearing a call for a spinoff with Smoke, for the longest. Do you think that? I mean, granted, you could say no today, and then Smoke starts talking to you a year from now. Do you?
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say fall of pressure, but does that make it, to where you actually want to write it when you hear readers saying, "I want to read about Smoke. We need to know more about him." Like,
Not particularly about like I have when I tell readers now, I've like put this story in a couple places that even though I had issues with sort of the lack of diversity and narrowness of Harlequin novels, and I moved away from those.
mhm.
In my head, that's still apparently that's still a model. When they get married or get together and have kids, I'm done. Like I don't do the let's see their life together stories. I don't think I've done one, and I can't people have asked for that for the Kinseys from The Beauty of the Street Love. They ask, a lot about Trey and what's going on. And that's just not me. And like even my friends will be like, why can't you just update? Well, because some of these characters are so distinctive. I think it's unfair to them and it would be unfair to me to like force what they were saying or whatever. So like for Smoke and Diana, I'm in my head, I'm done with them. You saw them 10 years later with their family or whatever. They're
Yeah.
together. I don't have anything else to say. Now, people also ask about the little brother, about Cam.
Yes.
Um, yes, I would like to write a spinoff for him. I
You
would.
know what? I think I like that. And
Hmm.
it's so funny because during the book, it's the way he the way he played on Dream by
Hmm.
torturing him. Like he'll answer the phone with his middle finger showing.
Hmm.
That would the way he was wrote. He was so funny. He was like a character where you like he didn't take away from it. But he made the story better. The way he treated him, the way he talked about him, the way it was just right on time. I mean, it was refreshing the way he used to be like, "I'm gonna let him live" and stuff like.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
really was gonna get rid of this little boy, but too funny. Um, what's your latest release? And I win, and I think it's about 22,000 some odd reviews for those. Is there pressure to keep it at the rate it's going because you received a new audience with Demon's Dream. I think more
Hmm.
people, you know, and then the fact that you can walk into book events right now and still sell out of that book. I heard a lot of people saying I went to get Demon's Dream and she was sold out. Tell her she need to print more copies of that and bring it next time. I think people are just
That book is hard to travel with. I already like now. To be honest, Casey Mills told me have the book sent to her because she, lives in Atlanta. Have the book sent to her, and I could come over to her house and do the sign and sort them out, sign them or whatever. And I just didn't know what my plans were going to be because actually my we were meeting family there or whatever.
mhm.
So I didn't get there to the day of the before the event. So I was like, I'm just gonna have the book sent to me for the pre-orders and take some extra. And um when I looked at them, I was like, there is no possible way. I'm flying with this. It's hard enough for me to get to an airport now, with all that I have going on. And then so I had to get, family that wanted to come with me and that would drive me or whatever. And when I tell you you saw we were cramped in that car with all those crates
All
and
the
still wasn't enough. I don't know how many I could have bought and it would have been enough. I don't know. So, but next time I think, especially because my next trip is to California, I'm definitely gonna have to send them
out.
ahead.
Yeah, you're gonna have to send some ahead.
Mhm.
Because you have a whole bunch of readers in California that feel slighted because everything is usually, southeast region. But they're excited. From what I'm reading, the post or whatever, they're excited to see you. And when I was talking to readers for the past event, you were one of the authors they named that they came to see. I came to snag Demon's Dream while she have it. Um, with that being said, your next book, have you started?
Yeah, it started. I'm like 100,000 words in. That's the problem.
Oh
That was the
wow,
one that was supposed to be the novella. It's
really?
not gonna be. It's not gonna be as long as Demon's Dream. I'm. Let me see. I mean, there are some things at the end that need wrapping up, but for me to put something out, I have to. Even though I'm never 100% happy, I gotta feel a way about it. And I like this book. I like the characters, but there's something missing in the feeling. And that's aggravating everybody because I can't put my finger on it because they keep thinking it's a matter of words. Like, friend, how much more do you have to write? How much more will it take to wrap up? And So then I just, give some phantom number like, oh, I think I'll be through at 110K, or oh, I think I have 6 scenes left, which is probably about right because I did kind of sketch it out in my head. But I gotta, it's like it's the things that I'm going back and doing until I get that feeling. So yeah, I'm deep into it. It's just like, it's the same thing like when with my academic writing. It was like I was always writing, even if I wasn't publishing, and it's kind of like that now. Like I'm always somewhere writing, even when people can't see it.
Do you outline?
No, I try to with like I work with Jazz B and she does the best outlines.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to do a little bit of it now. But what I end up doing is writing notes about what I want to do, what I want to include, like this is what's, so and so has been sent, things like that. I do write notes and stuff to myself.
Yes. So with I know you have Pasadena coming up, and that's in
Mhm.
September.
Mhm.
I like the book events that you do. I think that you fit right in. You come in and you grab your table and people are like, that's what I'm like.
And you ought to see me. I'm like, you can't tell like once I know you, but I grew up and I still to a certain extent I am so shy. So I come in and I'm looking straight down because I don't like to look at people. Feel like I'm staring at them, and I don't want anybody looking at me. And I'm going like I'm usually trying to get a table in the back. You remember there was only table left in the front, so I said, okay, let me get this table. And then like later, like some of the people I wanted to see, I didn't get to see because it was so busy. And my sister was like, for example, she was like, Dandridge Monroe was right behind you, and
Hmm.
there's somebody else she'd been to, and I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't even turn around to see. That's how I am. And then when we walked in for the panel, I walked in and I think I was aggravated by my bathroom experience. And again, having to walk across the front of the room with so many people. And Nina spoke to me and she's like walking in here like she's not LK's. And I was like, oh my God, just let me get to my chair at the end of this table. So it's
Just
something.
and a lot of just crazy is like a lot of authors are shy and like introverts, and I wouldn't
I definitely am.
I wouldn't expect that, especially. So besides writing, what do I mean? Would you get into screenplays and things like that, or movie scripts?
I'd like to. I have a friend who actually got like a screenwriting degree from USC, which is really a good school for it. And I was like, girl, we need to turn one of these books. And she was like, she's like, I'd be honored to. So I just got, it's like I have so many things that I want to do and possibilities I need to get in order and think about those things. But I see so many people like making their books into movies or whatever.
Yes.
But I think it would be hard for me. I know I'd have to let go of a lot. And I want to see it be a certain way. I don't want it to be, like some second or third rate. I mean, it's not gonna be a blockbuster. Nobody knows me like that. I'm not saying that, but I want it to be a decent movie.
Hmm. Like how Waiting to Exhale was brought to the big screen, like that.
Say it
I think
again. When?
Waiting to Exhale and Stella got her groove back how
Yeah,
big screen. I like
yeah, like
I like
those.
that. I like that. What I wanted to do with you know how you have the theme for the seasons. Would you ever think about a Thanksgiving book, Christmas book, New Year's Eve celebration books? Like, how will you start writing those?
I wrote in an anthology for New Year's Eve. And I wrote in a limited of I don't know what to call that. They pulled it down, is what I'm trying to say. It was only up for a limited time
Hmm.
for Valentine's Day, a paranormal one. But I started a Christmas one last year because I said maybe it'll be ready by this Christmas. We'll see.
We
And
shall see.
then I'm writing this is for 2025 though. Writing in an anthology if everything comes together where each author takes a month and I'm writing about the month of November, so it definitely probably will play around sort of probably someone who doesn't feel very thankful. Like maybe a lot of things have
Oh,
happened and they're not feeling very thankful. And of course, getting them to, because I'm the happily ever after person, getting, them to change their mind towards the holiday or whatever.
I like that.
Hmm.
I really like that. Is there, a genre you want to write in that is the furthest from your mind, but you feel like you can tackle it?
Um, just I want to expand more into paranormal. Like I really do. I just have my mind is so busy. I have all these thoughts, and like I said, I need to get more organized, more disciplined because there's so much I want to do.
So
Um,
I know that, you know, putting a time frame on a particular piece, authors hate that. And I know a lot of authors complain that, oh, my publisher rushed me or the fans rushed me, or how do you get away with that? I mean, you know, granted, you go at your own pace, but how do you get away from having those dreadful deadlines to meet? Because I know with Demon's Dream, you said it took a couple of years, but it's still riding a wave to where I don't think you have to. I mean, not saying, listen, I don't want your fans to get on me, but you could literally live off of and promote Demon's
it
Dream for another 2 3 years, and
it's got me spoiled. Yeah, you're right. Like it definitely makes me not feel the rush.
yeah.
Even though given the change in my status and the having to retire early, you can imagine how like it's not full retirement or whatever. I
Mhm.
do need to get on the ball. Um, but I don't know. I don't. Sometimes I've been pressed at the end, but I guess that's one thing. Like I know that I'm not gonna release it until like I was telling you until I feel a certain way. So all the calls and the pressure, I hear them, and it's not that I ignore them. I get it, and I'm trying, but I don't feel pressed by it because it's just not gonna come out till I'm ready. Like even it's just not. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't.
So, and I know this year is. I mean, even though it's the summer, this year is almost over.
It'll be Christmas
Yeah,
tomorrow.
it's gonna be. Yeah, it literally is. It's like 6 months to Christmas. Like
Hmm.
literally, we got a little less than 6 months. But with you seeing, the book fairs and the audiences bringing and things like that, do you prefer the book event settings over, you know, the Amazon and just buying through Amazon? Do you prefer to meet your fans like face to face?
I love that. I mean, it's okay. I do a lot of now. We finally have the website up where people can buy paperbacks, from Amazon. They come to me and I, sign them and send them, and that's fine. But the book events mean a lot to me because I am speaking of being like, um, definitely an introvert, and like again, like I mentioned, do have I've just had lifelong struggles where with depression, anxiety, where I'll get in a spot, and
Hmm.
the book events make me have to get up, and get the books together or whatever, and actually move and travel and interact with people. And so even at some points when I'm dreading certain things, I know I have to do them. um so I think it's good for me. That's why I try to go. Like um I think I'm gonna do. It's gonna end up being five that I went to this year because I went to Jackson and New Orleans and Atlanta. I'm going to Pasadena and I'm going to Houston in December. And people tell me that's a lot, and it does get expensive. But for me, it's like, how people pick up hobbies in their retirement and go and do certain things. I
Yes.
think this is going to be mine. Like I don't even want like
Oh.
next March. I think it is.
Mhm.
I think it's in March. Like I'm going to Monica Walters in
Yeah.
Dallas as a reader. I'm not even going as a writer. I'm going as a reader because Dallas, I'm in North Louisiana, so Dallas is only 4.5, 5 hours away or whatever. And um, a lot of times I fly out of DFW, so we drive over there all the time or whatever. So even though it might not sound like close to someone else, but it's a drive that we just make. Pretty somebody's driving, we're talking or whatever, and it goes. So the book events, I guess, to borrow an old phrase, they really give me life, and I love meeting my. People will come up and tell you the most incredible things, which I've been told, a lot of things in my inbox too. But when people tell you how, when I've had my own difficulties and people tell me how my writing like pulled them out of the spot or
Yeah.
was the only thing they could read when they were in a certain spot or whatever, that's all I could ever ask for. Because I
Yeah.
know what that's like. And reading is definitely escapism for me. That's why I do a lot of it, because I have a lot to deal with. And so when people tell me that my words give them that feeling, like it's and then seeing them in person and seeing how they mean it, um, that means a lot to me. That means
I
a lot to me.
also like in Demon's Dream, and I'm going back to this one a lot because it is your most popular book.
Mm-hmm.
The theme, the reoccurring theme is like, she'll say something to him and his reaction is to her like deep, even though he doesn't mean it. And I know he talked about her weight. He talked about, her being a, just, something for him to run through. Um, and it seems like, you know, he didn't want to hurt her, but he was hurt. And, the term hurt
Mm-hmm.
people. But
Yes,
it
exactly.
seems like he had to forgive. Common theme with them was forgiving, those who wronged you so that you can live your life. As far as him with his mother, her with her father, her not believing her father could, even though it was proof, her not believing her
Mm-hmm.
father could be that way. The burden he put on his kids to carry a legacy that none of them wanted.
I think that's why I kind of wanted to give the picture at the end because who could imagine Demon having a life like that?
Hmm.
But and it's why I wanted to do. Oh, I wanted to show more of the therapy. Like it was like
Yes.
since he it worked out again. I did feel some pressure at the end. So it's like he didn't get to. In one, you know, iteration in my head, I wanted him to talk to his mother before she passed. Even if it wasn't going to be some big sappy scene where I love her, I forgave her. He still loved her too. That was the thing. He loved her
Hmm.
and he hated her.
Yeah.
Um, so, but that didn't happen. So I wanted to see like him talk about her in therapy. There's some things I do like regret about the book or wanted to include that I just was like, again, just put it out there or whatever, because that was important to me, to this idea of forgiveness, of like trying to be as whole and as healthy as you could be so you could face like life and the life you want to build and do it from the we still have issues and problems and you know working you sometimes you have to work through things over and over but you could he could go into this relationship with Dream and have these children or whatever and be do it from a much healthier place.
Yeah.
So that at the end his life could almost look like um
Picture
a
perfect.
normal life except
Yes.
for the kids were like
Mm-hmm.
especially the little
Mad
scientists or whatever
scientist.
like
Mm-hmm. Blow up
like so
stuff.
it wasn't I wouldn't say a simple life or a boring life but just a different kind of you know excitement or whatever.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because with them, and it shouldn't be funny, but when she asked to see him, and he went off on his brother, like I know you, you ain't just tell me that. And then to know that they wouldn't talk, you know, that would be her chance to reach out to him, and he just wasn't ready. Um, and I kind of like that they didn't talk because sometimes, And I don't know who it was, an author that said it. Sometimes you don't get to fix what you broke.
Yeah.
And that's reality. You know, sometimes you cut too deep, and I think in life she cut him too deep for that to be fixed. Even though later
Yeah.
on he came to terms with it, but I was one of those people who was glad that they didn't really get to mend it, because that's life. That's life. You don't always get that HEA, for
Hmm.
every little thing. So
And
I
yeah,
like
they
that.
definitely wouldn't have had one. He would have never never envisioned him being close to her, or like
Yeah.
even wanting her in his life. But I wondered what a conversation like between them would look like.
And I think it would have been more him just staring at the wall as she talked. Because honestly,
Yeah.
like what can you say to a child that you watched being tortured for years? That
Yeah.
was
That's true.
yeah.
That's true.
Um and that was my issue. Now with Smoke and his mom and his dad, that I'm telling you, they were hilarious.
Yeah.
Um I love the fact that she could take out her anger on him, and he knew, like, I heard her, I deserve it, and it wasn't a retaliation thing. But Smoke, he thought both of them was crazy. Um,
Right. Right. It's like this is
Also,
normal for him. Like the things they
yeah,
were saying, the fact that she shot him or whatever. He's like, what,
yeah,
like y'all are getting on my nerves.
it sewed him
Like.
back up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, um, another relationship that I was glad not to see closure on was Dream and her dad. I
Mm.
didn't feel he needed. I didn't feel he needed it. I didn't feel he deserved it. I
Okay.
felt he deserved exactly what he got. And it's not often that we see the spouse taking them out. I like that because I just knew it was gonna be Demon, but when she did it, I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
because as a mother, and not saying what you would have wouldn't do, but I could see, that final act of protecting my child, even if
Mm-hmm.
it's from the person that helped create them. So I like that ending. As far as him, what's the word I'm looking for? Him being Dream's protector, kind of. After they met in his brother's office, it was like after that, his mission was to protect her and stop her from being hurt, being taken advantage of, and everything. Because I
Yeah.
think even though she was soling him, I think that he understood her, because this is exactly what happened to me my whole life. But I'm not gonna let you feel like you're used and abused. Like, he took care of her.
You
Even though
did.
it was
He
arranged
did.
marriage, he did take care of her. He made her comfortable. It was her in her mind about how their relationship was, but I don't think he ever made it seem like it was a monetary exchange, or
Mm-hmm.
a body for a body.
Not at all. I think so. People will say he's so mean. Like I couldn't get into it because he was mean. And I was like, I think he's rude, but I
Mhm.
don't think he. I mean, maybe, but I don't think he everything she wanted. You know,
She got
and even what she didn't want, no, she wanted. He took care of, like you said. And he
mhm.
just, he was very much protective of her, very much, like even when he said things he shouldn't, he didn't want anybody else talking to her like that, because he was already mad at the father or whatever, and just for the way he talked to her or handled her, and yeah, I definitely think he took care of her. So the people that are like, I can't get past, they can't get past his mouth, but I wanted people to also to look at his actions.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong, words hurt. I won't ever be one
yeah.
of those who say that words don't hurt. That is so not true. Um, and
But his
and she,
actions did speak louder than his words.
mm-hmm,
And I also like the fact that he didn't, even though he ended up with her because of the mistake her brother made. I like that he didn't like her brother. He didn't like her dad. He didn't like them for putting her in that situation to where
Right.
she had to sacrifice. So it was like I got what I wanted because of them being like this, but I don't think he didn't like it. He made it known that, your brother literally put you in harm's way while he got away scot free. Your dad literally sacrificed you for the name of a business to protect his son. And that was the part of Demon I like. He protected her, and I think he protected her even from those who she loved, those who she
Mhm.
showed unconditional love to, because he didn't feel that they returned it. I mean, they took advantage of her every chance they
Right.
got. She
Right.
was always coming to, seems like from how the book was wrote, she was always rescuing her brother from the
Yeah.
dumb decisions he made, and Demon didn't like that. But the book was so well written, and um editing, I know editing was hell with that, so many words. But it's one of the, like I've stated before, it's one of the best edited books I um ever read.
I'm so grateful to Crystal Collier. May she rest in peace. She just passed, and she's a wonderful editor and did the vast majority of the book. So I'm very grateful to her. I had worked with her for a while, and I'm going to like really miss her because it's I'm very protective over my words. Like I want to see everything, and like I've had some moments like with my assistant who does like the graphics and stuff where I'm just like, oh my gosh. When sometimes I'm not there and she'll like put things up or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have seen it first because this isn't right or whatever. So to give you an idea, so with Crystal, I was at the point where like I go over her comments and like respond to them or change things as needed. But anything she changed in the body, I just accepted. Like I trusted her that much, and
Oh,
that's a big deal for me. And I don't know who else I'm going to find and to build that kind of relationship with. And so she will be sincerely and dearly
she
missed.
was a great, I love this
Hmm.
conversation we had today, like one of my favorites. And I forgot. I'm like, you were like, mine. We got to take a picture. I'm like, okay,
Uh
I'll be
huh.
back. And I forgot.
It was
But I
so
will
busy that it
see
was you, and
you.
I know y'all were busy,
I
and
will
I ended
see
up
you in
leaving a little bit
Pasadena.
early because we sold out of everything. Oh, you're gonna be in
Yes.
Pasadena?
Yes, I'm going to be in.
Okay, okay. So I'll see you there. It's always good to see you. I really
I
enjoy
know.
seeing you.
You're one of my faves. I love when you pull up. I'll be like,
And sometimes like some of your readers just like stand out to you. Remember, I'm appreciative for everybody or whatever, but like just from the minute, I think I saw you making like a comment on something that sounded like something I would say, like it's like feminist and pro this, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna love her. So
yeah.
I've been on you ever since then. So
Yes. Yes. And I love it. So I'll see you in Pasadena. Thank you for
okay,
joining me on Sister Girls Night.
okay, and thank y'all for having me.
Yes. Good
Okay,
night.
bye bye.